Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. I'm SirAshtown, and join with me today we have two special guests. We have JDRR and Pandemonium Heart. JDRR, Pandemonium Heart, how are y'all doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks so much for having me.
Doing great. Glad to be back again. And finally on camera. Now everyone knows I've been exposed.
We got you. We got you. I'm unapologetically a huge Blurple fan. I've said this in the Discord. I've said it on Twitter. I love Blurple. And so it only made sense that when Pandemonium Heart was making his tournament run at the North American Continental Championship, that he started rising up the ranks, and we could see the 20 Lore Pro Discord Blurple discussion just go to life. I mean, we were all just excited. We were pumped. It was him, and I believe there's another member of the Discord, King Crab, who was also making that tournament run with Blurple. And all of us were just so excited. I know, especially myself, to see Blurple kind of at the big stage. And then we had a big surprise with RMB. I mean, I don't think anyone thought that RMB was going to show up to a major tournament with Blurple. And so I don't want to say that Blurple hasn't been a recognized, legitimized deck, but there's time to put some respect on that name. So excited to be here today to talk about your tournament run, Pandemonium Heart, and to kind of hear how you and JDRR worked together as a team, talked about the deck, worked your way through the Blurple, how to make it viable for the tournament. As you can see from my camera setup, I am here on the road, so glad to be here with y'all, and probably next week as I get back home, I'll have my normal setup, but we've been kind of on the road asking for people to join us in support for the Hunter Burton Memorial. It's a big event that raises awareness of suicidal ideation in the gaming community, and if you didn't know and you live in the United States, there is a helpline, 988. You can dial that number anytime. It's there available for you if you're struggling with suicidal ideation, or if you or a loved one are going through a crisis event. Again, that number is 988. So again, Pandemonium Heart, we kind of know who JDRR is, but I'll still ask you for an introduction. But Pandemonium Heart, could you tell us just a little bit about yourself and your history with TCGs?
Certainly can do. I'm Pandemonium Heart, aka Joseph Quigley. I play in the Toronto, Canada area at Enter the Battlefield with that team. I started out in TCGs in the Yu-Gi-Oh space. I grew up with that game, and then I fell back in love with it as I got older at various times in my life. I played somewhat competitively for a couple of years. I got a YCS top, which is a DLC kind of equivalent tournament. I know I was pretty good at a local level, but when Lorcana came along, and I just loved the IP, I wanted to try something new, and it just got its claws into me really, really big. I've never really tried to be a competitive player at anything before Lorcana, but I kept doing well enough, and I decided to make it my game, especially when I saw just how big and exciting it was getting.
Yeah, that honestly is a big kind of TCG history in the sense that you've been to YCSs. Those are kind of big within the Yu-Gi-Oh sphere. Did you ever place at one of the YCSs or make it in the top?
Yeah, I got top 32 at YCS Niagara back in 2022, I think it was. That was my only big top. I made it deep run at Nats, but it wasn't to be that day.
Thank you so much for telling us a little bit about who you are and your history with TCGs. It's really exciting to hear that you've had a little bit of experience, but now you're jumping in headstrong into Lorcana, and you've made a big splash here at not only being able to qualify for the Continental Championship, but then also to be able to compete and make it into 12th place. I mean, that's huge. So congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. It was another surprising run where I'm like, I did not imagine this would be possible.
Well, before we jump into more of your story and how the Continentals was, the championship, and how you did, JDRR, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your TCG history? We know a little bit about you, but just for those who haven't seen your other videos.
So, like a lot of people, we started getting into card gaming because of Pokemon. Not because we're playing, we're just collecting, right, as kids. And so that's kind of what started everything. And then Yu-Gi-Oh is where like playing TCGs actually took off for us because, you know, Magic was a little before our time, or actually at least for people around my age, right? So we didn't really get into that. So I started with Yu-Gi-Oh. We played casually for fun. And I just played that on and off for like 20 years, pretty much ever since high school. So most of my time playing was more like online, grinding ladders, going for rank 1 all the time. Degenerate stuff. But that's what I did online for Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon. And then Lorcana came out, and then I was like, hey, like I want to try something different as well. Like it's been 20 years with these two games, and then just like Joseph, just like yourself and many other people, somehow Disney has his grip on you, and we just can't get away. And here we are, right?
No, they've got us. I mean, everyone who's a TCG player, like we grew up kind of in the golden age of like a lot of us did of Disney, the classic films, The Lion King, Mulan. I mean, so many of the greats, and now you combine the two, it's inevitable.
Basically, yeah.
Well, I have two of y'all today. This is different. I don't actually think I've interviewed two people at once on camera. I kind of wanted to talk to y'all today, not only because Pandemonium Heart, you've done such an amazing job, but JDRR, we've spoken in the past that you do mainly online events, online tournaments, play, versus going to physical in-person just due to personal reasons. But you work with so many members within the community. You do a lot of coaching. I have personally now received coaching. I am a student of JDRR. So you work with a lot of people to help build the decks, but something special I think that helps in that regard is that you unapologetically, you openly and in a friendly way give away all your strategy, because you're not going to the Continentals, you're not going to the big tournaments, and so you freely tell people the literal best advice you can to help them advance, which I really think in this community helps kind of set you apart from a lot of people who are doing coaching, giving advice, because you're hiding nothing.
Well, Joseph might not have liked it while he's making his run. He's like, I'm sure people are like, he's playing Blurple. Pull up the guide. They gotta look at what they're doing. Which a lot of people have said to me, by the way. They're just like, my locals know how to beat me now because they just pull up your guide and start scrolling through it how to beat it. I'm just like, well, play better.
I actually heard though that people were having a hard time figuring it out after the run, at least immediately to feel like, okay, like theory is one thing, but practice is another as far as figuring the ins and outs of it. So it wasn't too bad. And I mean, I certainly appreciated being able to get the info easy when I was picking up this deck as well. But
yeah, I was gonna say you had a direct line. How did y'all both get connected? How did y'all get to talking about Lorcana, and how did y'all come together to start maybe talking about Blurple and working on it?
we've crossed paths on various Discords. Lore being a big one, just because KDR is like everywhere on that Discord. We have a testing group in common, and also I wouldn't say we had again crossed paths a decent amount. We didn't really get into talking like a ton until I decided that I was gonna pick up Blurple and I was going to make it a deck. And at that point, I couldn't get enough of hearing from JDRR and all his expertise. Absolutely.
Well, JDR, for your part, could you talk a little bit about your coaching, how you've been involved in the community and helping others get to learn not only just Blurple, but you also do Amethyst Steel quite a bit, and maybe even some other color pairings.
Yeah, adding a third color is asking for a bit much now. Like 2 colors is already a lot of work. But basically, I saw an opportunity way back in 20 lore, back in set 2, when I started to see success. And then, so it was like kind of validating, right? When you're playing and like you're beating like all these top players online, and you're like, well, maybe I don't suck, right? Because so I'm like, okay, fine. I'm just like, well, I'll start off with sharing what's been working for me and others, and then like since set 2, it just kind of kept moving along that way. And then like more and more people were just like, can you coach me? Can you help me? What I do enjoy is teaching people. I was a teacher in the past. That is what I enjoy doing, is coaching, helping people, teaching people. So then it felt like kind of like a natural transition to me. And also because I can't really compete because of priorities in life, children. So now I'm just living through other people's success. And like I was talking to Chris Anderson, and he was like, yeah, he's like he kind of feels in the same boat, like where we feel even more validated helping someone else get to the top rather than doing it ourselves.
Yeah, that's to Chris Anderson, by the way. He was the person who told me I should pick up Blurple for the Continentals, and absolutely right call.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, as a community member who has seen kind of the effort that you've put into the discussion of these decks and helping people, I mean, with a ton of questions. I mean, people will come in there and they will have asked like the same question that was asked like a day ago, not even a day ago sometimes, and you still answer it. It's like as if it was the first time it was there. So that's very much appreciated.
Literally why I created the guide, so that I don't have to answer the same question all the time, but it still happens sometimes.
Hey, and I mean, the guide's free. It's going to be in the description. So if you're watching this video, you're like, I want to learn how to play Blurple. I want to learn how to beat it. The guide's free. He's put it out there for everybody. So I'll have that linked down below. If you're still looking into set 6 set champs that are happening right now, that guide's going to be there to help you out just as a base core. And in today's video, we'll talk a little bit about what they think they might change or upgrade for store champs. So stay tuned for that here in just a little bit.
And one thing I'll add for people who are thinking of picking up Blurple, from set 5 to 6, we literally added 2 cards, right? So like if you know how to play the core of the deck, no matter what, going to set 7, we might add 1 or 2 cards depending on what's revealed. But the rest of the deck still plays the same. The deck plays exactly the same as it did in set 5, just more consistent. That's all it is.
Fingers crossed they give us 2 cards as crazy as Sail and Genie again.
Again, brought you both on because not only have y'all been working together, but also you gave a shout out on stage to JDRR. What would you say are the most impactful things that JDRR helped you with as you were getting ready for the tournament?
It's hard to pinpoint because it's kind of like Gideon has been the Blurple master for a while. Honestly, it was just kind of the play patterns and some of the nuanced lines. One line I can think of that was really key to my tournament run was the gold on 4 or Fox and Elsa on 5 line into red-blue, which is how I started to do better in that matchup, and you can see me kind of execute that in my stream match actually as a good example. Just learning what lines I need to take against what decks as well, whether Amber, Steel, Red, Blue, it just carried me really far in that tournament.
Wow, that's really impressive, and I can actually really resonate with that because same thing where the line sometimes of knowing like when to play things and how to get the right like character out when. Okay, how do I sequence this correctly for the matchup? So that's cool to hear that the guide helped and that you could ask JDR for questions and bam, like it showed results. Yeah. Again, it goes to show that having a community of trusted friends, competitive players, even if they're like your rival, being able to like have that open discussion with them can help you figure out, okay, this is what I need to be doing for my deck. This is how I need to play it. But also too, the practice matters a lot. I mean, you can't just read the guides. You can't just go and hear and read these comments and then expect to do well. Like you've got to put in the gameplay. It's very important.
When I made the decision to pick up this deck about 2 weeks before the tournament, I knew I'd have to grind it out. And in that about a 2.5 week span, I played 113 matches of Blurple to try to make it second nature.
I was going to say, that sounds like it paid off, the 113 matches. I'm sure you had a lot of lessons learned and frustrating moments along the way, too.
Oh, yeah. But the first 17 matches of that run were wins. And so a 17 win streak, I'm just like, okay, I guess this deck is going to make me play it.
Oh, man. That's awesome. You know, talking about the deck and your experience playing, can you tell us a little bit about the North American Continental Championship and your experience at the event? Just kind of overall, how was the event? How did it go?
Well, I mean, it went fantastic. You know, it was quite a venue. It was like incredible walking in, seeing everything. It was really nerve-wracking to start, more so than any of the DLCs I've been a part of. Going into the LCQ, knowing it's single elimination. There's no room to like make an error and just kind of play your way out of it. It was like really tough to just kind of like not be a little bit nervous, and I had to try to calm myself down a bit from that. There was an unfortunate 2-hour wait before the LCQ actually started. It started later than it was supposed to, which was kind of unfortunate, but it did give me time to like take my breath and focus about being mad about that as opposed to being nervous.
Oh gosh. Yeah, you had to qualify because you initially didn't have an invite to the championship, so you had to go and win your LCQ pod and then get ready for the big tournament. So can you talk to us a little bit about your LCQ pod and how that went and that whole experience? I mean, there was probably a lot of other pods going on at the same time. Is that right?
Yeah, there was 32 pods going on at once. I ended up in pod 19, and it felt a little bit chaotic in a sense, just in terms of how many things were going at once, how many people that you knew were playing it out, and going on deep runs, and also getting eliminated, all in tournaments that were running alongside yours. It was a crazy experience. Each match definitely had its own challenges, but the deck was running really smooth. I remember my first round gave me trouble where I was up against Amber Steel Mines, and my first round opponent got to 19 and 17 lore. Really close, really nerve-wracking. I got through it okay, and the deck just kept running hot, banging out 2-0s. My fourth round opponent was Raklam, who's a great player in Europe, has got multiple DLCs. That was, a little bit intimidating, but I felt confident going into Amber Steel Mines. And we managed to get a 2-0 there as well, and get ourselves into a place of being in the final, and that's where it got really intense. The final of the LCQs were actually incredibly high, like all 32 people kind of in a few close tables, and you had all these people around you because like everyone was watching their friends, cheering them on to get through this last qualification. And you would just hear these pops of different people qualifying, a bunch of people cheering the crowd for them as they stepped away. It was actually like a really fantastic moment to cap things off. And when I managed to take on my final opponent, which was Red Blue, which was a bit scary. It's a definitely tough matchup, but it's doable. Just being able to hear the cheer, step away, get out to the crowd, see my friends, celebrate with them, cry a little bit just because like all that work paid off. It was a truly magical moment.
Man, that's so amazing. I mean, I can only imagine in a DLC, of course, like you want to play very well, but it's a lot of rounds. It's 9 rounds, and then you got to play a day 2 if you're going to do that. But the LCQ pod almost intensifies that. I mean, it's like everything counts, single elimination. And you said in round 4, Reclam. I mean, that's a well-known player. We know he's played well. I mean, that's a confidence booster to beat him, I'm sure. But then to get into the finals and win, I mean, that's such an incredible thing. I know for the 20 Lore Discord, JDR, I'm sure you were there when we saw that he had qualified for the North American Continental Championship. We were popping off in the Discord. I mean, we were going crazy. I was happy for Blurple. I was happy for you, Pandemonium. I mean, we were all celebrating. How did it feel knowing that you talking with Pandemonium Heart those 2 weeks or so leading up to the tournament, that he was able to make it in?
Well, first of all, I was very happy for him that he made it. But the thing about LCQ is because it's not streamed or anything, so we're just like constantly refreshing Melee. It's like, what is the result? What is the result? It's like we just want to know, but we can't see. Whereas like compared to Continentals, we have like other people who are at the event who are not playing. They might be giving us like play-by-play about what's happening, so we actually know what's happening. But we're just kind of in the dark, like praying. We're just like, I hope he wins, because we only hear from people every hour in between rounds. Right? So like on our end, it's just like kind of holding on to hope, really. That's all it is.
Maybe that's something they could add in the future, is streaming maybe a pod or having like feature matches from like the finals as like maybe a couple of cameras set up and they could switch between them for LCQ pods. I mean, that'd be kind of fun having that.
That would.
I know the community would love it.
That'd be nice. Yeah, for sure. because there was a lot of things in LCQ that were quite spicy, to say the least, that didn't make it to day 2, but they were like 1 win off.
I know there was a
Wow.
Jafar in one of the finals, and I'm just like, dang, I want to watch that match, but I can't go watch it.
Dang. Okay, that's crazy. I
Yeah,
didn't know
there's so
that.
many want to watch. Yeah. And one of my students got killed by a red yellow Mufasa that went 4-1. There was a guy that went 4-1 because he top decked a Wreck-It Ralph and gained 2 lore with
Oh
Rapunzel in the
my
discard.
gosh. That was that guy's moment. That's sad for your student, but that was that guy's moment right there. That's crazy. But he
Yeah.
went 4-1. He lost at the
One
end.
up Wreck-It Ralph.
Lost it.
He
Yeah.
lost to
That's
Red
bad.
Blue, I think.
I love Red Fossil myself.
Bro.
Yeah. He lost to one of the other players in our Discord.
Oh, I didn't know.
Sean.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's something you want to see on camera,
Yeah.
too. That'd be like, oh my gosh.
Mhm.
For
I
sure.
definitely would have wanted to, because watching Continentals was very nice to have over the weekend compared to LCQ. We're just like, refresh melee.
But we got to see a lot of great pictures from Pro Play Games on their Twitter, and they even sent out an email, I think, where they had like a bunch of the pictures from the championship, and they sent pictures out of players like you were describing, Pandemonium, who had just won their pod, and their friends were celebrating with them, and you could see the relief and the emotion in the pictures of just, I did it.
For sure. Honestly, topping the pod felt weirdly more impactful than getting top 16 in the day 2 event. It was freaky.
No, I mean, I can see why. It's almost like you topped like a DLC. I mean, that's the equivalent of an LCQ win. Like, I mean, that's impressive to go 5-0 and to play that stressful of an environment. Looking at the tournament, you qualified. You won your LCQ pod. You were ready. Did you ever at one point think, okay, everyone knows what I'm playing now. It's out. Should I maybe switch? Should I like change it up?
So, yes. So going into the tournament weekend, I was thinking, win or lose, Purple's a great best of 3 deck, but is it a great best of 2 deck? It seems a little too fair. So I thought that for best of 2 format, whether in the main event or a side event, I would switch to green-blue discard, actually. And
Wow.
that's a deck that I've worked a lot on, that I love a lot, that I still love a lot. But over the course of the LCQ run, I actually went 10-0 on Blurple. I never dropped a game. So at that
Wow.
point, I'm talking to JDR, I'm talking to some of our other compatriots, and I'm asking them, like, it would be crazy. I shouldn't switch here, right? It would be crazy to switch. And I got a lot of, like, yeah, no, you stick with it. You ride Purple here. It was hard to switch after a magical run like that.
Yeah, that's something I've heard from a couple people, that Blurple feels more like a best of 3, and it's interesting for their decision, whatever it may be, that they decided to do the LCQs as best of 3, but then the main tournament as best of 2. It's something that could, to consider. Like, is switching better? Maybe even when you don't know what the meta might be like. Some people switch just into aggro, or something that they're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
But sticking with Blurple that is a choice. It is. It can be almost a mental game, because it does require a lot of focus, and you even more so than just a normal deck to pilot.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have any like crazy unfair lines. Genie on 3 is really good, but there's no Shift Diablos here or Hirams here. It's you gotta just play some good, honest gameplay, so to speak.
Yep.
But yeah, to your point, we were discussing like potential changes to the deck, and if you were to make day 2, or Continentals, because basically in a best of 2 format, you want a more polarizing deck, as we saw with like Ed's RP list, his red purple list, right? He was like fully teched out to beat red blue, and that was like his main goal, right? And so and that's something that we did discuss, is just like, well, do we stay in the middle and have answers to aggro, to purple aggro, to steel, to red blue, or do we just like pick a color and all in on it? So we did have that discussion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what with your list that you ended up with, where do you feel like you landed? Do you feel like it was more teched out, or do you feel like it was more middle of the range for a variety of decks?
Going to the LCQ, I was definitely trying to be middle of the range, going up against a lot of decks. We did expect a lot of red. There was indeed a lot of red. So that was part of the decision to play Blurple. Was like, well, this is something that can take on the red deck pretty well, without like losing to other decks entirely. I leaned a little bit more, like very slightly more, tucked into our red for day two. I swapped one card in. I cut out a bell and squeezed in a third mana to I tried to deal with that. I don't know if that was the right call, but it worked out. But we were very focused on taking on the red decks overall throughout the entire tournament with ducks and manners. I guess making sure we could beat that, and in day two that we could 2-0 that.
Wow.
I would argue that the third manner mattered because on stream you slammed 2 manners on the dude.
True. It did make a difference for that one for sure. At least.
Yeah. The only match I saw, so I was like, that's 3 manners at work right there.
For the meta going into day two, you've made it. You go to the North American Championships. You've qualified. You're in the tournament. How did it feel? I mean, what was the tournament like? What was the environment like heading into the championships for North America?
It was a little intimidating. So they had us separated out into a different room than everybody else got to play in. So you're basically in a very condensed space of 128 very good players, very big faces that you recognize and know, and that kind of makes it a little bit more intimidating than it might be otherwise. Like being among all these great players and be like, okay, wow, this is real. This is actually playing. This is happening. I'm amongst all these greats. So that was a little intimidating, but in a way less nerve-wracking. The previous day, you had like a little bit of wiggle room. The day started out a little bit rough. My first match was up against Blurple, actually, a mirror match from just like, wait a minute, this isn't supposed to happen.
Oh my gosh.
I guess other people realize the tech is real. And we played that to a draw. And then our next round, we play a close set against Purple Steel, but I did lose that one. And at that point, one loss, one draw, I'm just like, well, I guess the magic is over. I probably can't turn it around from this position. It doesn't seem very likely, but that's okay. It's fine. And then I proceed to win 9 games in a row to qualify and make it to day 2, basically. And it was another crazy magic run.
Yeah, 9-0. I mean, winning 9 straight, that is incredibly impressive in any tournament setting at all. You could have fallen back into a mental state that said, hey, I've lost, I got an ID, or I got a draw. That's it. Like, I'm just going to play it out now and have fun, or like do my best and just go. It sounds like your mental state was, no, I'm going to keep going, Blurple's it. Like, I need to win. Like, I need to win.
I mean, yeah, so I definitely felt I needed to win. I was kind of prepared to, just fall back and chill, but it's very hard for me to turn my brain off in a tournament, really. No matter the circumstances in a tournament setting, I'm always going to try my best and give it my all and try to put myself in a good mental state to win, because you never know what might happen.
That's true. Out of all of your matches that you got to play during day 1 of the actual championship, what was one of the most memorable ones? Was it the one that you did on stream? Because it's on stream and you're playing against Red Blue. Okay, that makes sense.
I will give. I had a few memorable ones. I played against Rip Lungs. We had a pretty great set early on. I played against Trilobite on Discord against Red Purple. Our game 1 was probably my favorite game of the tournament, where we just had this incredible back and forth. We were both hitting all of our draws, so we just had a really good game 1 match that I managed to squeak out. And then, of course, the screen match where my phone was blowing up. I was in the hot seat, in the big seat. Weirdly, in that match, I was super nervous going into that, just because I was 3-1-1 at that point. I was like, okay, one more win, and we're basically there. And I was kind of like freaking out a bit. So I was actually really happy to go on stream there because it gave me something else to focus on that wasn't being nervous. Like the stream set up the environment around me. Like the stream weirdly calmed me down. It was kind of fun.
That's awesome. Did you get to go back and watch him, JDR, as he played?
Oh yeah. I was watching the whole time.
Oh, okay. So you were cheering for him.
Oh, of course. Who else would I cheer for? Not the red blue player. Sorry to Sailor, but not the red blue player. Yeah, you can call him the red blue master. In my head, when I was watching, I was like, I hope he executes the plan that we talked about literally before the event, and he did it to perfection. So if anyone wants to watch round 6, it is up on stream. And if you want to learn how to beat red blue with a Blurple, that is how you do it.
Oh gosh, I gotta go back and watch this now. I'm gonna round 6. I got it.
Just put it on repeat until you understand exactly why Joseph did what he did every single turn.
You heard it here, Pandemonium Heart, from the master coach. You've perfected the gameplay of Blurple for at least that matchup. Going into day 2, I mean, okay, so you've made it, you've qualified, you're like, all right, like, there's a chance. Like, there's a chance here of Worlds. Like, it's legitimate. How was day 2 like? What did it feel like getting into day 2 and then playing?
So obviously there was a ton of excitement seeing I got my making it, knowing I would be a higher seed even, and then I saw my first round opponent was going to be Zan, and I'm just like, dang it, no. That's really unfortunate. Other than looking at the top 16, other than seeing perhaps Panamega on Steel Song, I think that was probably the thing I wanted to see the least. I don't think Green Steel is like a terrible matchup for Blurple. In testing, I found it to be kind of 50-50-ish, especially because I have the play advantage going into that. But I knew it was going to be a tough matchup, A, because I'm facing a great player, and B, because, it's Green Steel. They can often just blow you out if you don't find exactly what you need. There's not a lot of room to try to scout in a long game. It's because you got to hit those first few turns or you are probably going to die. And so I did a lot of practice with some great friends from our local area who are also there against Green Steel, trying out this exact matchup. Shout out to all of them for the help there. I felt pretty prepared going into it, but I still knew it was going to be a really tough challenge trying to take this one on.
Yeah, we just talked about Sailor being like the master of like red blue. At this point, we could probably call Zan like the master of like Green Steel. Like he's. Again, you're in a room full of well-known community members, or at least members who like they've gone to tournaments and they're like great at what they're doing, and now you're one of them. I mean, in a sense, like you played Blurple so well that you were able to get to the stage where you're playing with the master classes of the color pairings. So, I mean, big props to you.
Thank you so much. It was unfortunate that it fell a bit short against and got to game 3. Had a couple of missteps, but didn't have a great hand either. But I fully take responsibility on that one. But on the other hand, it's not necessarily a great shame losing to a player as great as Zan either, and he's a great competitor as well. Would have liked to have made it, but still very happy with the run overall, and feel very humbled, and I thank everybody who has helped me and been part of my journey in lorcana to get to this point.
Yeah, is there anyone that you'd like to shout out, besides JDRR, who's, as we know, has been with you, helping you with the guide and then talking to you?
Shout outs to my home team, Enter the Battlefield, which has a great community, as well as Habibi, my teammate, who was there by my side throughout the whole run, helping me out, taking care of things in the background. He was a great help. Shout out as well to Chris Anderson, who told me to get on the deck, and SLTC and Zalang as well, my testing groups who have really helped me hone as a player as well. Shout out to all the great people over there.
That's so awesome. It's great to hear when a community can come together, because as a player, it's not just one person. You have to have opponents who help you plan and play. You have to have friends that you could talk with, de-stress from your losses, and hype you up on the wins. I mean, it takes a lot of time, effort, and a community to get to where we are as players. And so that's great to hear that you have that behind you and that you found success along the way. So we've talked about the tournament. We have heard your great success, Pandemonium, and how you did at the tournament. we are in the midst now of store championships. If people are interested in playing Blurple, what advice could you give them as they're kind of looking into store champs? Do you think it's still a deck in light of Continentals that people should pick up and play?
Absolutely. I think Blurple is still a fantastic deck in this particular metagame. One of the reasons I picked it up was because I felt it had a really good matchup spread where it doesn't lose too hard into anything, and you have a lot of room for skill expression and to outskill your opponents. So I think it's definitely a great choice that can really contest in the store champ metagame.
That's awesome here. And JDR, do you, being the master Blurple coach, the one who's helping others guide them along the way, I'm sure after watching Continentals, seeing the deck lists that come out, I'm sure there's some changes, maybe some strategy updates. What do you think about Blurple going into store champs?
The reason why we thought Blurple would be a really good call for Continentals is just because its best matchups are anything red or anything that you want to go longer that you can grind in, right? It's not like its aggro matchups are bad. It's not like its steel matchups are that bad either, but it's not like we're favored into that. So when you're playing at the store level, you might see a little bit more of these random aggro decks that can go like turn 1 Merfolk, turn 2 Daisy, double Daisy, then like you're probably dead, right? Or like Lilo or Piglet, whatever. Like we're not that great against that just because we don't have that many tools to deal with all that aggro. So at the store level, you will probably struggle a bit more than, unless it was very red heavy compared to Continentals. And you would have to change the deck a little bit to kind of combat that locally.
That being said, as we're looking at the deck and seeing kind of the changes that we should make and how to play it, for those who don't know Blurple, could you give us, JDR and Pandemonium, just a little bit of an overview of how the deck plays and kind of its main goal? Could you start us off with that, JDR?
So the main goal is to not miss your turn 1, find a 1-drop. They all draw a card, so you don't mind throwing it out there. Turn 2 is ramping, right? We either want Tipo or we want Sail to ramp so that we can go into a 4-cost. And that's where it opens up the deck. And that, like Joseph had talked about earlier, that is playing Genie on turn 3 is probably the most unfair thing we can do. And being on the play, a turn 3 Genie is very hard to deal with for most decks. Right? Then after that turn 3 where you play your 4-drop, depending on the matchup, right? You can either play Genie, depending on which matchup. So for example, if it's like you don't know what you're against, you go Genie. It's a very good blind safe play. If it's say like red purple, red blue, you want to go Rabbit probably, because you got to grind with them. Or even Goat against red blue to protect against Hiram. Or if it's like a more aggro based deck, you don't even play your 4-drops, you're probably playing your Fox or your Crab on that turn. Right? But after that first 3 turns, then the rest of the deck pretty much is a freestyle. So like Pandemonium had alluded to, it is very much skill expression at that point, because after then, it kind of depends what you draw. You got to make the best with what you draw, what's in your hand, and what's best for the situation. So apart from that, I can't really say what else the game plan is, apart from try and ink more, fight for the board, control it, and get to 20.
It is fundamentally a mid-range style deck where you are trying to get under the red decks by going faster than them, while also taking on more of a control approach against some of the faster decks and a lot of the steel decks as well. But it's very kind of free-flowing in terms of when you go into control mode versus when you're like, okay, I'm the beatdown now, I need to go faster, and it's going to depend on game circumstances, and you got to be prepared to kind of go between those two modes as the game circumstances dictate.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like I tell people all the time is like the most important thing about Purple is knowing when to stop drawing cards. There comes a point where drawing does not help you win the game. As much as we love drawing cards and want to hold 10, 20 cards in hand, that doesn't get us to 20, right? So knowing when to stop drawing and when to start pushing, when to be the beatdown, like Joseph said, is a very important skill to learn when you're playing Purple in general. Blurple especially. Yeah.
Talking about that like free form game state where it's more of a skill expression, like you were saying, JDRR, when you get into that mode, Do you have any favorite lines or plays that you like to do, Pandemonium Heart, where you're like, okay, we're kind of in the mid late game. I've kind of got this established, and this is what's going to give me the push, or these cards are going to be the push to win.
Well, late game, obviously, you love slamming down Hades or Big Elsa to answer their strats. Those are some of the easier things to do if that lines up. But you've got a lot of late game flexibility with your min bounces on turn 7. You might do something like play a 4-drop and like bounce something with a fox to get some value and also contest board. You might do something like crab, bounce that crab so you can really take on a big threat, for instance, can be really good and effective as well as a mid-game kind of play. You know, singing friends. Oh, a big one that I really love whenever you can line it up is turn 5 Elsa, turn 6 shift Elsa, turn 7 snake, bounce the stack, and then replay the 5-drop Elsa, take out something out. When that lines up, it's just beautiful. That's the one I really love too.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
well said. Well said.
Do you have a favorite line in the deck, JDRR, that you're like, okay, I know if I did this, like, I should have this. Like, this is it.
One of my favorite lines against red blue, because we don't like that deck, is going into. So if they have a Maui Shark out and going into our 7 ink turn, and we don't have a Hades in hand, right? But we have Elsa, we have Crab, and we have a Snake available. So one of the things I like to do is have a Crab on board, right? And then what they will often do is they will either quest or Grammatala or exert something that I can crash my Crab into, right? Or if they don't, then what I would do is I will Elsa their Shark, I'll quest with my Crab, I'll bounce it back with Snake and give the buff to Elsa and then take out the Shark, which is something that red-blue players never see that coming. Almost never. Because it's like so random. You're just bouncing your own. You're like, why'd you play a Crab out with like 6 ink and just passed? Right? It's like, what are you doing? Right? And then, yeah, randomly the Snake comes out and gives your Elsa the rush. It's like it's like the worst way to deal with it, but with the Shark, for example. But it's just like when it happens, people will just kind of sit there staring at you. They're like, what just happened? Which Blurple does a lot of, by the way. I'm pretty sure Jospeh had a lot of people just after he made a play, and they probably just sat there and they were just like, what just happened to me?
I had a line against Riplung was mentioning this to me where he said like, all right, I'm going to ink this harm because there's no way he takes out my first harm with his deck this early. And then I guess had Goat into Elsa to take it out and managed to sweep the game out because of that.
Wow. That's something that I've noticed, especially early on in Lorcana. I've been playing a lot of red, purple. And if you try to pilot this like a red purple with just like a blue, it's not the same. It's a different way to pilot purple. You have to treat it differently. And you're playing crabs, you're playing Merlins on different times and phases than you would in the red deck.
Right. Right. So what I would like to say, Blurple is kind of like a fusion of the other purple decks, green purple, red purple, purple steel. So you play very similarly in a control manner like you would be playing red purple. Like a lot of people say like Blurple is basically red purple without red cards because it plays very similarly in that sense. But then in terms of fighting for the board, you don't have red cards, so you're playing more like green purple or purple steel where you rely on a lot of crabs and foxes to start trading the board and simplifying the game state.
It's definitely a tricky deck just because you don't have any red or steel cards that are removals that people across both continents really love to work with. So it takes practice to play without those things and just fight for board with characters. But you can get there with enough time at it for sure.
Any major changes, Pandemonium Heart, that you think that you're going to make to the deck going into store championships, or maybe even just a one of or two of change that you're personally going to make that you think will help?
I'm not too sure I'll make anything drastic. I do like the list I ran, and I'd probably keep it for the most part. One thing I do want to experiment with that I haven't had time for yet is going for more of a library build. We did see Ed do very well with libraries at Continentals. I think it's a very valid choice. I definitely want a location in the deck, whether library or manor. I think that's important to have against red decks, and both are valid. I think they have pros and cons to each other. So I'll work with it with library and see about changing the build around that a bit.
That's great. And anything that you're thinking of adding one of or changing out JDRR for, or advice you might have for people in store champs?
Right. Well, typically I'm the one that usually starts doing crazy things. Everyone else kind of plays like the more solidified, proven list of mine. But right now, what I'm testing, like Joseph tested, which I'm doing already, is the library build. So we're not playing manors on more libraries. And then what I'm also doing there is I'm playing without Bell to see how things would feel. I'm also playing by upping the 1-drops to 12 instead of having 10. So the reason for these changes is because with library, you want more 1-drops. The synergy is very good there. The other thing is having more 1-drops, it gives you more options early game because like Joseph said before, we are a mid-range deck, but we're kind of slow in terms of like questing. So having more 1-drops would help us. So for example, someone from our group actually, was against red blue and they did not see turn 2 ramp. But because they had so many 1-drops, they were able to play triple 1-drops by turn 2 and get a lot of early lore. And then if they die, they die because you draw cards, so you don't care, right? Yeah. And then more 1-drops would also help us a little bit more with those aggro matchups because then we're never missing turn 1, turn 2. We're always able to play more bodies. And because we have no removal, we are it's like a fully based tempo deck. If we don't need to play Elsa with 5 ink, we can play a rabbit or a genie and a 1-drop. So then the only way that we can get ahead against these other decks is we have extra ink, so we can squeeze in more bodies on the board, more characters onto the board. So in that way, we can overtake Tempo by just playing more characters than they can. So that was like the theory behind what I'm trying there. But in terms of what people should tech in and out, like if you are expecting fully red, like if your meta is all red, just play Donald, the ramp 1, 5-cost ramp 1, and locations. Like don't even play Bell if it's all red. Just play Duck and locations. If you, right, and then just like increase the amount of Hades you have if it's a lot red blue. Reduce the amount of Elsas. Vice versa. If it's aggro and steel, play more Elsas, less Hades. Don't play the Duck. Play Bell. Don't even play locations because it's pointless against aggro and steel. Right. So it really comes down to your local, and you do have to adjust the deck a little bit based on what's there.
Well, JDRR, Pandemonium Heart, really appreciate y'all being here today on 20 Lore Pro and for your advice. Like you were saying, JDR, you give advice freely because you want to see people succeed. You get success via other people's success. Pandemonium Heart, amazing run yet again. You did great and hope to see you again in the future. I mean, especially in other tournaments, not just in DLCs, but in other big 5K, 10Ks. And hopefully in the future, as we hear more on Disney's tournament plans, hopefully we'll see you again there.
Absolutely. Hope to get around more for sure.
Where can we follow you, Pandemonium Heart, on social media? Do you have a presence at all, or we know that you're in the 20 Lore Discord?
Yeah, you can find me at YouTube, Lorcana Pandemonium. I have a few videos as well as a Purple deck profile. You can also find me on Twitter by the same handle and on Medify, Pandemonium Heart on Medify as well, where I've started the community there myself just after this tournament.
That's amazing. And we'll make sure to have all of those linked in the description below. So if you'd like to follow, learn more, get into his brain, especially on his Medify, head on over to the link in the description and you can find him there. JDRR, we know you're in the 20 Lore Pro Discord. You offer coaching. Your DMs are open there. Where else can we find you, or is that it?
Everyone's like, you should probably start at Twitter or something. I'm like, I'm already on enough social platforms for work and other things. Maybe I'll be there one day, but for now, you can find me in 20 Lore on Discord, or you can find me on Medify because I'm finally on Medify now. So
there you go.
Yeah, you can find me there too. Well, I had to put the guide somewhere instead of a Google Doc.
Well, I'll get your Medify after, and I'll put that in the description below. So if you are looking for coaching, these are two great players who have found success and have continually helped drive the communication surrounding and the strategy surrounding Blurple. So look out for more from JDRR and Pandemonium Heart. We'll have both of their links in the description. Again, thank you all so much for joining us here today at 20 Lore Pro. Really appreciate it. Again, we are getting ready for the Hunter Burton Memorial. It's March 14th, 15th, 16th. We're doing a charity event that raises awareness for suicidal ideation and crisis in the gaming community. If you and or a loved one are struggling with suicidal ideation or going through a mental crisis, reach out to 988. That resource is available to you. We are accepting donations for that tournament. Everything that we do there, from the tournament entry fees, all the pricing that we receive, whether it's cards, playmats, anything, deck boxes, all of that is given to the tournament as part of support and fully given to the charity. So if you'd like to learn more on how you can help support Hunter Burton Memorial 988, feel free to DM myself, reach out to 20 Lore Pro. We'll have the link below for the Hunter Burton Memorial. You can find out more there. So again, thank you all so much for joining us today, and we will see y'all here in the next video.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Thank you.